Welcome to another edition of Coffee with the Candidates. I have Lauren Nelson with us here today. She is currently a state senator and running for re-election for District 18. Welcome.
Thank you.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the viewing audience?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Lauren Nelson. I am the current senator for District 18. I am just finishing up my first 2-year term in Pierre. And when I was in Pierre, I served on the Transportation Committee, I served on the Education Committee, and the local government as well. Last summer, I had the privilege of serving on a summer study, which was dealing with our community support providers. And also too, I was on the Medical Marijuana Oversight Committee. And both those committees, I get the privilege of serving on them again this year. I am married to David. We've been married for 32 years. We live north of Yankton. We have a farm dealing with row crops, beef cattle, and chickens as well. We have 3 adult children, Mary, Beatrice, and Fred. And hopefully, we're hoping 2 of them will call this place home, hopefully in their future coming years. I am a teacher by trade. I have taught for 20 plus years in both public, private, and homeschooling settings. I also have a degree from USD in educational administration. And in the community, I am also the treasurer for the Yankton County Sharpshooters.
So what sets you apart from the other candidate?
I would have to say what sets me apart is the fact that I listen to people. For matter of fact, just the other night in Hy-Vee, somebody caught me and said, "Hey, are you State Senator Lauren Nelson?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And we spent probably 10 to 15 minutes with a concern that she had about some insurance that she was dealing with. And so I stood there, I listened, and just had a really nice time talking with her. And so I think what sets me apart is I listen very well. Also, I'm a hard worker. I listen to the people, I work for the people of District 18. And one thing that you can count on me as well is that I'm not listening to the paid lobbyists or the political insiders or the powerful politics that are going on in Pierre. And another thing too that sets me apart is I understand the value of the taxpayer dollar in the fact that those dollars are earned hard work earn those dollars, and it needs to be respected when we look at how we spend those tax dollars in Pierre.
So share your views on the public education system. What is the state's role in funding and regulating public education, and how do charter schools fit or not fit into the educational options?
After being in Pierre for 2 years, one thing, I guess the biggest thing that I need to say is that we need to stop just simply looking at funding and regulating, that we need to start looking at investing. How do we invest those dollars that education does receive? Investing them in our students, investing them in our teachers, and investing them in the outcomes that we want to see from our schools and from our students. And I think charter schools are a tool that can be used to ensure that students are reaching the fullest potential that they can achieve. And also too, I think there needs to be accountability and transparency when it comes to the taxpayers, because the taxpayers are the ones footing the bill. And there just needs to be that openness so that they know what they're getting for what their investment is getting them for the money that they're investing in these schools.
In the previous legislative session, there were bills that approved changes to sales tax rates and giving voters the option to implement some localized options. What are your views on the current sales tax options?
Yeah, we had the 2 big ones, which included the one for the counties and the one for the city. I voted against both of them because, for one, the first one is just a tax shift. The other one is a new tax mechanism. And in both cases, they're taking money out of the taxpayers' money's pocket. And I think our people are paying enough taxes as it is. The other tax issue that we had to deal with was, again, the state sales tax jumping from 4.2 to 4.5%. The conservatives tried in both houses trying to stop that increase and keep it at 4.2%. We weren't successful. And so what happened is we did the next best thing is making sure that money just wasn't thrown back into the general fund, but that money would be put into a special fund and then would be used for homeowner property tax relief.
So there has been significant discussion around the future fund and incentives for economic growth. What are your views on current incentives, and what modifications would you recommend moving forward to support growth in communities large and small across the state?
First and foremost, I don't believe incentives. Again, incentives are taxpayers' money, simply, and I just don't believe those taxpayers' money should be used for private business. If they do need to be used, if incentives do need to be used, I believe that they need to be put forward to our South Dakota small business owners, first and foremost. These are the people that are in our communities. These are the business owners that when you go ask for a donation to a cause or a fundraiser, they're more than willing to step forward. I know in many cases these people are our Little League coaches, they're our flag football coaches, they're involved in the communities. And also too, they're the ones who sponsor our summer festivities and other activities that we have in our communities. And so if incentives need to be given out, if taxpayers' monies need to be used, I think they need to be given to our small business owners, our business owners that are from South Dakota and are working here, raising their families here, and are a part of our communities.
What issues for Yankton County do you want to elevate to a statewide conversation?
I could only pick three, or I was thinking about only three when I sit here and think about this. And I think the first thing is our small communities. I believe this past legislative sessions, there's been some bills that have dealt with our smaller, or our bigger municipalities, our counties, and I think our smaller communities have been neglected these last few years. And I think we need to make sure that we're still providing those funding for water infrastructure, making sure they have adequate water, sewer, and also their streets. Because again, the last couple of years, costs have increased, and so it's very hard for these small communities to be able to afford those big projects. Another thing too is, again, our state's attorney's office and the huge costs that they're dealing with state parolees. And again, if viewers are not aware, the state puts somebody on parole. If they reoffend in the county, in whatever county, it's the county's responsibility to then prosecute that and to house them. And the burden is put on our county. And so we need to take a good look at that and say who really needs to be footing the bill for them. Also, juvenile justice is another one. Back in 2015, the state got rid of their responsibility for juvenile justice and put it back on the counties. And so that's something else that needs to be looked at. And I'd have to say the last thing is, again, our ambulance services. And it's not just Yankton. And I know Yankton has a big concern because the county foots the bill for the whole ambulance service. But it's really statewide as well. And I know there was a summer study last year dealing with that. And I think more conversation and more studies need to be done on it because, just in our rural communities, West River especially, you call an ambulance and it's a long ways away. And so really need to take a look at that.
Are there any areas within the state budget that you would like to see significant change?
Yes, I would have to say the first one is why do the big three have to be kept together? First and foremost, I would like to see, those separated out and maybe giving different percentages to those big three and not keeping them together. Zero-based budgeting, when all the agencies come and they say, here's our big number, the legislature has to whittle that down or try to figure out what exactly they need. I think they need to start with a zero base and then prove what exactly they need so that we can make sure that we're using taxpayers' money wisely. And again, just the expansion of welfare programs that happened this year in our budget. I say my fellow colleagues, because I did not vote for it, but created new welfare programs and expanded some. And again, that's taxpayers' money coming out of their pockets.
So you touched on this a little bit. The lack of county funding has been a statewide topic. Do you have any ideas on how to support counties so they can continue to implement essential and mandated services?
Yep. First and foremost, unfunded mandates. And that's a conversation that I've been having for the last couple years with our county commissioners and talking to them about that. And the thing about it is the fact that those unfunded mandates didn't occur overnight. It's been many, many years of legislative bills getting passed and approved that have built up to the point now that our counties are just under the weight of all those mandates. I feel like if the state feels like those programs are important, either fund them themselves or give the money to the counties to be able to fund them. So one thing to look at. The other thing to look at is how can counties share resources. I was at a county commission here recently, and Mike Solacek, our road guy for our county, was talking about counties coming together and bidding on asphalt and being able to get a cheaper bid or getting it not as expensive. And so I think that needs to be looked at and needs to be utilized more, is how can our counties work together to get cheaper costs for things that are big ticket items for the county to fund themselves.
Some will say South Dakota is open for opportunity, and others say South Dakota is not a business-friendly state. How do you view South Dakota? Please provide some examples to support your views.
I think South Dakota is great. I travel around the country. I get the pleasure of doing that, and it's always nice to come home because South Dakota is great, and it is open for opportunity. And I think when I do travel around and I talk to other legislators in other states, or I talk to people in other states, I think there's two big things that really come to mind. First, we don't have a state income tax. I think that we are one of 9 states that do not have a state income tax. So that's attractive to families to come here, just that less burden of taxes on them. And the other thing too is the fact that we don't have a corporate income tax. And that I think we're like one of 6. I mean, just very few states don't have a corporate. And so I think keeping those two things are keeping taxes low, and I think it makes it attractive for people to come to South Dakota and open businesses.
So what should South Dakota be doing more of to recruit people to move here so we have an adequate workforce to support industry?
Yeah, making sure that when we attract people to come here to South Dakota, that we are wanting them not just to come work, but to come here, stay here, grow old here, and make it their home. And again, it goes back to, I think, the basic things of making sure you have adequate infrastructure, making sure that water, sewer, roads, so that if somebody does want to live in a smaller community, that the roads are adequate for them to get or commute or get to where they need to be. I think another thing too that needs to be made sure is the fact that you have safe communities, that you have those educational opportunities for families as well. And again, just giving those amenities and things like that I guess families are looking for in their communities, and just making sure that just the basics are there for these families when they want to come.
So what are your thoughts on data centers?
Well, first of all, you got to make sure that we're talking about the right kind of data centers. I mean, when somebody say data centers, they freak out because they're thinking of the big ones. There's the 2 kinds of data centers. You have the smaller ones, which we have here in Yankton, and people probably don't even know we have them. What most people, when you say data centers, what we're talking about is the big ones, the hyperscale ones. And there's one going in Arizona that's 16 football fields big, which is probably very hard for most people to really comprehend. I don't like data centers. And the reason why is because when people are pushing these data centers, what they're doing is they're showing this shiny object and saying how wonderful it is. And when reality sets in and these are built, the promises that were made about the shiny object is just not there. You look at Rapid City right now, dealing with a data center coming in. There's no transparency. Their energy rates are going up. And also too, with those data centers, few jobs are created, maybe during the initial construction, but as they're going, there's very few jobs. There's been concerns about water and just their footprint that they put on the community. And so the little ones, I'm perfectly fine with. The bigger ones are a little bit, I'm just not for them. And also too, I want to make sure that data centers, when and if they do come in, that it is locally controlled and not controlled by the state, and the state telling the counties or the townships what they must do.
Do you have anything you want to include in this interview that was not a part of a previously asked question?
Not really. I guess I just want to say thank you to the people of District 18 for giving me the opportunity to meet them. People ask me what is the best thing about being a state senator for this area, and I would have to say meeting the people of this district. I'm partial. I mean, everybody in Pierre says they have the best district, and I say no. I have the best district because I do. I love this part of the state. It's a special part of the state. It's amazing. That's one thing too. It's amazing how many people head to Yankton in the summer for Lewis and Clark Lake and are very familiar with this area. So it's been a pleasure. Get to vote on June 2nd, and it would be my pleasure again to spend another 2 years of Pierre representing the people here in District 18.
Well, Lauren, thank you very much for joining us here today. And as a reminder to the viewing audience, absentee voting will be available down at the County Government Center, and the primary voting date is June 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you.